Well, hey there, everybody. I am so glad to be back. It's Super Bowl Sunday, February 6, 2011. We're not going to talk about football because that's not what this show is. This show is, if you guys remember, since it's been like a month, I'm so sorry. So we're going to dive back into how not to succeed in showbiz, all right? I want to dive into the Groundlings. We started talking about the improvisational group, the Groundlings, and I was talking about the classes, and I went through all that stuff. So I'm going to jump in a little bit about how I had talked about the comedy troupe, the Hauska troupe that I was in. I had told you we had done a lot of good shows, and we had some bad shows, and things like that. And it's always funny to talk about the bad stuff, right? It's not so much fun talking about the good stuff because it's not as funny. But I did want to use one of my favorite shows with them as an example of good preparation. We're always talking about preparation and how important that is, because I mean, it's obvious, right? If you don't have all your stuff prepared before you go into an audition, before you perform a piece of music before in front of somebody, if you're trying to put together an art piece to sell or show off or use to get a job, whatever it is, if you don't prepare it well and put it together, nothing is going to happen, right? So I'm performing with the Hauska troupe, and we got a pretty cool show coming up at a place called the Comedy Store. So proud to say I played at the Comedy Store, but if you talk to any comic in Hollywood, they're like, who cares? Hollywood Store is awesome. Did I say the Hollywood Store? The Comedy Store. The Comedy Store is actually a really famous place. If you know Pauly Shore, you know, hey, what's up, buddy? That guy. His mom owns the Comedy Store. Now he is running it. And it's a very famous place that gave a lot of opportunity to up-and-coming comics. And the great thing about it is it was a really nice venue. Big-name people play there. But also, they have places for people just starting out where you don't have to be a big name, you know, and it's not like a dive. So, see, that was the nice thing that the Shore family, I think his mom's name's Mitzi, but I don't want to give, I think it's Mitzi, that they provided that environment. So we got a gig, the Hauska Comedy Troupe, playing at the Comedy Store at the very bottom of the place called the Belly Room. It's actually downstairs, and it's this fun little room, nice intimate place, nice little stage. They got a bar in there, and then I can't remember how many people it sits. Probably sits 50 people, 50 to 70 people, I think. And we got a gig there, and I was really, really stressed out, because I'd never performed at a comedy club like this. This is a world-famous comedy club on the Sunset Strip. I think it's on Sunset. It might be on Hollywood Boulevard. But we played in the Belly Room. Now, the Belly Room was the place that everybody kind of just got their feet wet. And there wasn't really a lot of requirements. Now, kind of like the pay-to-play thing we talked about at the Whiskey, I believe it was a pay-to-play kind of a thing, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was something like, I can't remember, but it was like $5 a ticket. So we were going to perform, not just us, but it was going to be us, and, you know, just like any comedy show, there's several comics that come back up. But we were the first act, I believe. If not, we were the second. But we were the very beginning of all the night in the Belly Room, so we were the bottom feeder, which is fine. And in preparation for this, I was telling you guys how, you know, I studied with the Groundlings, and I did all that stuff to really build up improvisational skills for auditioning. So one thing I really think is good for actors, so we're going to focus on acting this time, is whether you like it or not, you have to be ready to just jump into anything at any time, without being like a cartoon character, without being silly, and without doing what they would call stock characters, where you just kind of, everybody does the same, you know, if I say do a country guy, everybody does the same twangy voice, and you impersonate somebody, and it's like that's your twangy guy or whatever, Texas guy. But you want to be able to just pull stuff whether you have a prop in your hand, somebody hands you something, whether you're faking it by just, doing the stuff that we talked about at the Groundlings, or we will talk about at the Groundlings. But all of that, you need to be ready at a moment's notice to pull it out. So I really encourage everybody that's pursuing acting, whether you take a class with the Groundlings in Hollywood down here or wherever you're at, study something that helps you learn how to pull out those skills. Now, I told you I don't really like it. I like scripted comedy, and that was kind of my angle. I wanted to get into sketch writing and sketch comedy. Now, with House Troupe, there wasn't a whole lot of sketch comedy. So it was hard for me every time we would do a show to be prepared. The only type of preparation we had was when we would rehearse and say, okay, these are the games we're going to play. All right? So one of the games that we were going to play is a game that's called Acronym Panel. Everybody know what an acronym is? So it's kind of like U.S.A. That's an acronym for United States of America. And so this game would be these 3 or 4 characters would come out on the stage, and we would sit out there, and we all had different jobs. We all come from different, just professions. And the game with the audience is you would pass out pieces of paper and a hat and have people write down an acronym and put it in a hat. Then what they would do is we would come out as our characters, and they would say, okay, you'd pull the acronym out, and you would have to say, based on what your career is, what this acronym means. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause real quick, because I'm going to go grab my journal, because this is funny. I wrote these down. Now, before I run away and grab the journal, here's where I prepared, but made it look like I was improvising. So we could all think of acronyms right off the bat that probably people would write down, So I went through during the week, and I wrote down, and all of us did this that we're going to perform. I was going to be one of the characters, and 3 other people were. And Dave Shipp, my buddy that runs the troupe, was going to be the game show host, and the one who passes the hat around. So I just said, okay, what are some of the acronyms that everybody uses? All right. So let me go grab my book here real quick. Okay, I'm back. Through the magic of digital audio, I was able to pause it, right? So we're back here, and actually it's not in my journal, it's in my little sketch comedy book. So a couple of these acronyms, we know they would think of it. So I ahead of time wrote them down and said, how's my character going to come up with these things? So the first one was NASA, N-A-S-A. The next one was CIA, FBI, Scuba, Snafu, COD, and but I came up with all this. Okay, so here's what my character was. I'm not going to do his voice, so don't beg me to. I will not do it. But his name was T.J. Hockenberry, and he was this total kind of an old kind of a hick guy that worked at the carnival. He was kind of a carny, and he worked in a circus. So with that said, all of these acronyms had to be about my career at the circus. Now here's the thing that went over really well. Everybody thought that we were just like having to come up with these things right away, because everybody had to do it differently. So if somebody put something in the hat and they put NASA, and he pulled out and goes, NASA, N-A-S-A, what does that mean to you, T.J. Hockenberry? And I'd go, oh, NASA, that's really simple. It's not a safe altitude, okay? And so and I would go on and do this bit about the trapeze artists, when they're flying around, sometimes they get up too high, and we go, hey, NASA, it's not a safe altitude. So it's something silly, right? It sounds silly me just saying it. CIA, they asked people in the audience, what does that mean? Everybody said, Central Intelligence Agency. What does it mean for you, T.J. Hockenberry? And I said, it means circus is attitude. That is the motto of the circus clowns. Everything's about your attitude, blah, blah, blah. See where I'm going with that? FBI, it was a warning sign. It said fools bumbling inside. That's what FBI stands for. It lets people know that there's clowns in the room, so be careful. All my comedy was safe and family oriented. See, I always tried to make sure everybody, even though the audience there might not have wanted the family-oriented stuff. I made sure I gave it to him. Snafu, this one was kind of funny. I put some nasty animal foiled up, and I said that's a fancy word for poo-poo. Beware, animals laid some droppings around there. We got to clean it up. So, warning, snafu is kind of what it was. COD, comedy outdated. So, if you're doing a joke and it's not funny anymore, we say that joke's COD. Totally COD, comedy outdated. So anyways, so we go to do the show, and there's like this female comic that was the host. And she was pretty funny, and she introduces us, and we all come out, and we're all excited. We're like a bunch of clowns ourselves, you know, trying to get everybody hepped up. And we do this game, and it comes to me, and I come out, and it was like the best experience I had, and it was the most fun having it happen at the Comedy Store. I got up there, I was totally relaxed. I did my funny little character voice, and I didn't fall out of character. I can't remember what I was wearing. I don't think I had overalls, but I had something on, cowboy hat, or maybe it was like a baseball cap or something, you know. And it was a good time because we all did it was nice and smooth. And that's a good example of we prepared, even though it was improvisational. We made them think that we were just taking, you know, we planned ahead, right? We know what people are going to ask. And so you got to be ready, you know, because there's times when you're not ready, you know, and you know, when you're doing this improvisational stuff, it's really important for auditions because you get about 30 seconds. I remember one audition, and we're going to talk more about when I get the story of me getting an agent, you know, a little ways, not too far, but pretty soon coming up, we're going to talk about that. And one audition I went to was for a commercial where all the audition is that they said, okay, we have a bunch of props that we've thrown down on the floor. And when you come in, you have 10 seconds to look at everything, and you have to use all those props and do this kind of a bit thing. Like you're an FBI. Oh, I know what it was. It was like you were James Bond, and you had to run in, and you had to grab all these different weapons, these little gadgets, and kind of make something out of them really quick, like you're James Bond. I had no idea what this was all about, but the way they did it was they said, okay, everybody is a group, so they had all 20 or 15 of us that were auditioning to walk in together. And they said, okay, everybody, take a look. We all got about 20 seconds. They go, okay, now everybody leave. And you're going to come in one at a time, and you're going to do this audition. And I remember going, this is going to be really tough. But I brought in my notebook, and nobody else did. And I literally wrote it. I looked, and I went, okay, water gun, yo-yo, stand. I just really quickly just tried to like photograph everything in my memory and just write it all down. And then and I looked at, and I remembered what was in there. And I'm looking at it going, okay, because I didn't get to go right away. It took a while before they got to me, so I had a long time. And I noticed that people were coming in and out like 20 seconds. I'm like, whoa, they're either doing really well because they totally nailed it, or they're so bad it's like next. So I'm getting kind of stressed out, but I'm looking at my notes going, okay, what am I going to do with this gun? What am I going to do all that? So I actually prepared, even though I didn't have a whole lot of time. And when it came to my turn, I just went for it. I just went nuts, and I said, okay, here, I remember the props where they were at. I grabbed them. Didn't get the job, but you know what? I was okay with that because I know I did really well. One thing I always told myself is I don't mind not getting a job because I didn't look right. I mind not getting the job because I didn't do well at my audition. And we're gonna tell some stories about times that I didn't do well. Because that's funny, right? That's comedy. But I do want to say something about the Comedy Store gig. I'm going to mix in some puppet stuff. When I was a boy, you know, I talked about Sesame Street and all this stuff. I wasn't into ventriloquism at all, but there was one comedian who was a ventriloquist that I thought was really funny because it was really hip and he was really cool. And his name was Willie Tyler, and his puppet's name was Lester. Lester had like these John Lennon glasses, big afro, really funny guy, like a hip turtleneck sweater. It was a really cool, really funny comedian, and I really enjoyed watching him. He'd be like on The Tonight Show and things like that. But one night, or the night, I should say one night, the one night we played at the Comedy Store, and we were done, cause I'm going to just kind of walk around this place, and it's all dark, and I'm just going to kind of walk around, see what's going on in all the other theaters, because it's like a bunch of shows going on at once. So I go upstairs, down this dark hall. I'm walking down the hall, and I want to sneak in at the comedian that's in this big room. He's in the main room. It's a big stage. It's really nice. I can't see who it is because, I really can't. If I open the door, I'll get in trouble. So I was trying to peek in and look through the curtain. Well, when I turn around, there's a gentleman standing in the hallway with a case. And I look at him, and it's Willie Tyler. And he had just opened up the case, and Lester was in there. This was the coolest thing that only I would even care about. Because when I was 9 years old, I begged my mom for a Lester ventriloquist doll that was in the Sears catalog. And I should say I asked for Santa to get that for me. And she got him for me, and I got a little suitcase that he went in, and it was awesome. And I loved it. Tried to do ventriloquism. Wasn't good at it, but I used Lester as a puppet. I mean, it was just kind of cool to have him. I thought it was really neat. So, how many years later was that? Not quite 30 years later, but let's say 22 or 23 years later after that, I'm standing at the Comedy Store in Hollywood in the hallway with Lester. Now, I wish that I could say I said hi and we had a nice conversation and we became pals. Well, I was so awestruck in my little way that I just said hi, and I just kind of looked at him and walked off. And I really, kicked myself for not at least saying, wow, you're Willie Tyler, at least tell him the story, because, you think about these guys, they don't last forever. As far as, if I'm talking about a guy who was, when I was a kid, was probably in his 20s, and now he's older, and it's kind of like, well, is he still really popular? Well, he's playing at the Comedy Store, right? But I'm like, it probably would have meant a lot to him if I said, hey, I'm a big fan, and meant a lot to me. I had a Lester doll when I was a kid, puppet. I thought that, so I always wish I would have done that. But that was a great experience. So we're coming up here on the end of the show. Just want to get quick 20 minutes, all right? Still more guests to come. I have some more people that are going to come on the show, and a couple cool things coming up soon. But I'm glad we're back, and I hope we stay back in action for at least the next few episodes before I take another break. But thanks for listening, and please keep telling people about this show. It's fun, right? I mean, everybody knows me. I don't think one person is listening to this show that I don't know. So it's kind of fun, right? I'm just telling stories. We're just hanging out in the studio here. I always say, and I said this, I think, in the very first podcast, I treat this like every Friday night I'm going to the Comedy Store and I'm in the belly room, and all you guys go to the Comedy Store to listen to me tell stories about how not to succeed in showbiz. And if I do that every week and all you guys show up at the Comedy Store, that's it. I love it. That is why I do it. So that's my attitude when I'm talking right now. Though I don't see anybody, I just pretend you guys are all out there in the audience and you're coming back. But there's no 2-drink minimum. So you're saving money, right? So thanks for listening, you guys. Take care, and we will be back very soon. All right? Bye-bye.